Let's go live.
I've had
We are.
too many
It's just,
people steal
Let's go live. Oh, we're live. Just like that.
And there it is.
Why do I look whiter than usual? Did I just not see any sun, or did you color balance for this guy, or what's the deal here? Like really shiny. I love it. Hey friends.
Hey y'all, welcome. We're gonna get started in just a few minutes.
Ooh,
We like to come on 2 or 3 minutes early.
Yeah.
Have a little bar
Scope it
banter. Make sure the sound's dialed in just perfectly. As you are coming in to the live stream, drop your name in the chat. Let us know who's here. We always like to know who's joining us today.
Brian's back.
Hey, I'm just saying.
That's why I'm excited.
Agave is a happy, is a happy spirit.
It's a happy
It is a very happy spirit. We're very happy to be here today.
Yeah.
So let us know who's here. Virgin, we're live.
We live.
I love it.
We're doing it.
Virgin's always like in our first 1 or 2 comments. It's like you're sitting there ready for us to go live. I love it. Hey, Diane. Good job. Sound is great.
Things aren't over.
Everything's looking good. The guys are just,
We're taste testing agave. It's really important.
For science. For science.
From batch to batch.
We've got quite a few bottles of tequila here today. Brian
brought the fire over here.
He did. He was talking up the live stream to a bunch of what did you call them? The tequila boys in San Diego?
Yes.
And they're like, here, take these bottles.
It's true. Yeah.
So we'll talk about tequila in a little bit. That'll be fun.
So these.
Diane, it's dreary in Columbus. I'm sorry to hear it. It's kind of middling weather here today.
Yeah, we have the full-on May gray in San Diego today.
Yeah, juice your limes. We've done some pre-juicing, courtesy of Sean. Not only is he a talented producer and videographer, but he's really good at bar backing.
Yeah, he's pretty good bar prep.
What a good host.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, Matt. Sometimes you do need to taste your tequila and compare them without the complication of other ingredients. Right. Make sure it's all going to taste good.
I mean, they made it for you to enjoy just as it is, right out of the bottle. So you should know what
what your raw ingredients are before, like how they taste before you combine them with
100%.
All right,
other things.
We're going to get started here.
Okay.
So we are going live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the cocktail journey. I'm Rachel Eva. I'm here with Stefan Kurpinsky and Brian Prugalidad, aka P-Dad,
Yes.
Pours.
P-Diddy.
And we're here to talk about margaritas today. We're so excited. We are going to make several different versions of the margarita. So to set you up for what to expect this hour, we're going to start off making 1 or 2 classic versions. And we're going to throw a non-alcoholic or a spirit-free cocktail in there as well. And the first half of that hour is a great time to ask all of your questions about margaritas. No question is too simple. You want to ask about the best way to juice a lime, we can talk about that. We'll talk about shaking, we'll talk about ingredient selection, we'll talk about different recipe specs, and then you can make along your margarita with us, ask questions, celebrate your successes, talk about your challenges, and then just engage with us on that. And then we'll talk about the history of cocktails and the margarita, and then we'll run through some variations. So as you're getting ready, we got a lot to cover.
Yeah. So get your tequila and let's go.
Get your tequila out. Juice some limes. You can either juice into the jigger or you can pre-juice like we did, which is totally fine.
We kind of do it both ways sometimes. Sometimes we get really excited and we pre-juice, and some days we're like, hey, let's just grip it and rip it. So we're not going to tell you how to do that at your home bar. It would be good to have some sort of a triple sec or an orange liqueur. Our house favorite, obviously, is Cointreau, but Combier, dry curacao, anything triple sec orange related will work. If you have some agave syrup, agave nectar, that's always nice to have around. Otherwise, simple syrup is a great option. And if you are going to sip on some tequila later, having tequila Fortaleza around is always a good option. Or this tequila Ocho, single estate.
2013.
Oh, yeah, if you have a 2013 line around, if you're flexing like Brian, then absolutely go that way.
The bottle's low for a reason.
Oh, but it's also not empty for the exact same reason.
Absolutely.
It's that good.
Yeah.
You're like let's save the last bits for
I have so many bottles
let these legs stretch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like once that's gone, that's gone.
Yeah.
That's the last of it. So
That's where I'm at with all of my like untouchables. I get to like a 0.3.
right.
You know, in the inventory bar world, we know what that means. It's like 30% of the bottle left. About 30%. You're like, yo, I gotta lay off this for a while. Let's lay the rest of it
Save
down.
and savor it. If you are just joining us, please let us know who is here in the audience with us today. Just say, like, who are you and where you're from? We're all here in San Diego. That's where we've landed in life. Stefan Kurpinsky's been here 15 years in San Diego, 20 years in the bartending. You grew up?
I was born and raised here.
Born and
I'm one of the
raised,
few.
local San Diego.
One of the few.
You and my fiance both.
Crazy. There's like not many of us.
Yeah,
There's
right?
not. I'd like to call myself a San Diego native, but I moved here when I was 7, so I can't say born and raised.
But you know what, San Diego, we just love people. We'll welcome you. You know what I mean? Which
If
I
you
think is
like,
amazing.
if you like tacos and good weather, then we'll accept you
Right.
as one of our own,
Right.
pretty much.
So we love San Diego. We're gonna get started. Stefan's gonna make the first one.
I can't believe you're gonna give this to me. All right,
I'm
cool,
totally gonna
fine.
give it to you.
Traditional daisy spec, right? 2-1-1, right? So in this case, I'm going to use 1.5 of spirit, 3/4 of an ounce of the triple sec or Cointreau, and then 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. I usually use the cheapest product first, so we'll go ahead and put that 3/4 ounce of lime juice in. Just in case you make a mistake, you're not feeling really bad about it because you're not wasting really good tequila. And then we'll go ahead and do 3/4 ounce of orange liqueur, which is kind of sticky. There we go.
Been using that a lot
I had to dust
lately.
my bottle last night.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
just not using a whole lot of
No,
Cointreau these days.
Not a lot.
All right, which tequila? Oh, there you go.
Let's talk about it.
Real de Valle.
Yeah.
Have you gotten the full scope from the team? I haven't.
I have not either, but I do. So Real de Valle is a locally made. Well, the guys who put it together are from San Diego, good friends of ours. It is an amazing 100% blue agave tequila. Their
Taste is
goal
there.
was to create the best first pour tequila. I don't know if you remember the last time I was here, we were talking about, we were talking about gin with the gin and tonics. We were talking about not saying rail or, well.
Yeah.
Because everything that we pour, we put our heart and soul behind it.
Mhm.
Just because it's less expensive doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's not quality. So their intention was to make the best first pour tequila.
Honest.
Absolutely.
100%.
100%. Environmentally friendly, bat friendly, if they can. And this bottle retails for $25.99.
Retails.
Yeah.
Which means it gets even lower for the bar, which is cool.
So it is an amazing 100%.
And it wasn't available when I was writing the 15 bottle bar. So
Right.
I couldn't include it.
Right.
This is
I put it in the recommendations for today.
It came to market maybe a month and a half ago.
It's really only in SoCal so
Right.
far, but they've got big plans to
Yeah,
export it
so be
around.
on the lookout for it. At its price point, there's nothing that beats it, and it's an amazing tequila. So
There you go.
Cool. All right, so that's that. Which glass should I use?
Dude, let's do the beautiful one first.
What's
man.
this, guy? This is
Yeah.
fun. All right, so we have to prepare a glass, right? So the greatest thing about having, can you cut this guy up for me? About having a margarita is obviously it's already balanced between sweet and sour, and it is vibrant with that sweet and sour and the agave kind of melding together really nicely. But the thing that really makes it so unique in the cocktail world, and thank you, sir, and extremely drinkable, right? Like crushable. You can't just have just one. Is really the salt playing with the sweet and sour. So to prepare your glass, you're going to start off with either you can use the spent halves of limes that you use after juicing, or you can use a fresh juicy one just like this. And you just rub the juice end of your lime against the outside edge, just the outside edge of the glass, like so. And then you can go ahead and run it around this kosher salt here. And because we only put the lime on the outside edge of the glass, it's only going to be stuck to the outside edge, which is perfect. 'Cause you get it in the inside, then your drink is got all the salt, not your tongue. So there you go. That's now prepared. We're going to get some ice going.
Hey, Brian, what is first pour?
First
When
pour
you're
is like so in layman's terms, it's kind of like your call, right? Like if you ask for a bourbon and Coke. It's whatever they pour first.
Oh, so it would be what you would reference as like the well or
Yes.
your standard or your
Well,
your workhorse spirit, you know?
Yes, but we don't like to use the word well, because it
degrades like something that's already really high quality.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if you go to a bar and their well whiskey is Buffalo Trace, that's a great bar.
Right.
Buffalo Trace is a delicious, Kentucky straight bourbon. So they've made that bourbon really well. It's been aged for 3 to 4 years in Kentucky in fresh, new American oak barrels with a beautiful char. Like you can't call that crap. Like and there's this
What is
connotation
the
with
word
well
for
that
well? It's like, where did that come from? Like you're just...
It's like, well, your
just-
service
you're
well.
serving
Yeah.
them.
Like
service well.
Like everything else is
the
going to
thing
be.
you're grabbing every day. Right?
Yeah, like everything else is like top shelf. When people want something better, they say top shelf. But I think with the standards that we've worked with for the last decade, they're like the well. When I worked in a diner,
Sure.
Beam's 8-star.
Yeah.
Okay, Montezuma.
Yeah.
Like these names that were just like
Not good.
you knew were not good.
Right. But
now,
we're not going to tell you about those brands. If you want to use them, by all means, if you're mixing with them, you're
I
probably
don't
just
even think
fine.
they're around anymore.
Most of them aren't. But I mean, you could still get Sows of Gold.
Right.
Right. That's like diffuser.
mixed up,
Mixed. Yeah.
But you want something that is quality, so we say first pour. Like this is what we'll pour when you order a margarita. If you want something different, then you call it, right? Like you call,
and that's where the word "call" comes from.
So as bars and restaurants are reopening, as a patron, when I go to a new bar, sometimes I ask, "What's your well tequila?"
You could easily
I could
interchange that
say,
verbiage
"What's your
with
first
"What's
pour?"
your first pour of tequila?"
And everyone will know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
well, I mean, at a cocktail bar, you know exactly because it's probably just right here, right on your right hand, because you're pulling it every day.
Right. Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Perfect
I'm gonna
little
shake this
consumer
drink real
tip.
quick.
Let's get margaritas in hands.
I think that's
Ice is
important.
melting.
Yeah. Ice is melting.
Cocktails cooking.
Cocktails cooking, as we call it.
Love it, man.
Sorry, Todd. It's like right by my. Great. So now
Right by the mic.
right by the mic. Now that we've blown your eardrums out, we're going to pour this directly into our pre-salted glass, just like so. I've got the gate on this Hawthorne strainer all the way pressed against the side of the cocktail strainer. That way you're getting cocktail shaker. That way you're getting as little of the ice chips as possible. You could fine strain this even if you wanted to, but I don't want to be that cute. Traditional garnish for a margarita is a lime wheel, just like that. And thank you for the courtesy on the slit on the side. So you can just lay that on the rim of the glass like so if you cut a little courtesy slit, or you can just plop it into the glass. Either way, it's a margarita. The original margarita, Daisy spec right there. Really delicious.
It's beautiful.
Hope you all enjoy it as much as we do. This is a drink that you can't just have one.
Right. You said crushable. You said the word crushable, and I was like, that's what these cocktails are for.
Yeah,
all
of them.
Don't worry, we're going to make a couple of margaritas tonight. We're also going to talk about two different methods for shaking. What Stefan just demonstrated was shaking and then straining the cocktail over fresh ice. And we had a great chat with Brian last week when we filmed the margarita video. One of his preferred methods is shaking. What is it called? The shake and dump.
Dirty dump.
The
Yeah,
dirty
there
dump.
you go.
Although you did it so artfully, it was just like it was so much finesse. But I think that's an important thing to talk about. You want to talk about that now in terms of ice conservation?
Well, when are you drinking a margarita? Right, like 9 times out of 10, it's probably on the beach, right, or like at a pool,
Barbecue. Something like really warm climate.
Right, you kind of want that little extra dilution. You want that extra ice to keep the drink extra cold. You're almost basically at that point, you've like pulverized the ice. It's almost like pebble ice at that point, so it's extra cold. It's not something I would spend $17 on, right? Like a margarita with a bunch of broken ice. But if I'm drinking it at the pool or at like a margarita style bar. I like the dirty dump concept.
And I'll show everyone like
we'll demonstrate that method as well
in a little bit, like where the ice isn't really broken. But like the history of the margarita itself, right? 1950s, late 1940s. It was served in a pitcher. It was this rich socialite from Dallas and Acapulco. Just came with the wherewithal to combine tequila, fresh lime juice, and triple sec or Cointreau or orange liqueur. in pitchers and serve them at her beachside,
Right.
like parties and all that stuff.
And that is like one of the origin stories that I've read a lot about the Margarita. I've also read a lot about some bars in Rosarito rather, which is just in northern Baja,
Beautiful.
which is about 30, 45 minutes south of where we stand today. And that's also kind of a secondary origin story
Right.
for the Margarita, which is one that's close to my heart because it's in the Cali Baja region that we live. But either way, it was who knows who really nailed it first. I mean, that whole idea of tequila, lime, and sugar in orange is a beautiful marriage, and it should be celebrated.
And here's the thing about origin stories too, like your 2 cents or your grain of salt, right? It's like, who came up with the origin story? Like, was it a booze company? Was it like really what happened? So we like in the annals of time, we really don't know. But we do know that it's a great cocktail.
Yeah, we do know that generally what gets accepted is whatever gets written on Wikipedia, right? They're like, oh, no, the Wikipedia will now say, and it doesn't really matter, right? Like, none of us were alive at that time. The people who were alive aren't alive anymore. There are.
But it's fun. I think it's fun from like
it's great to argue.
A lore.
Sunshine in the glass.
Yes.
And like a mythology standpoint too, right? Cocktails, especially cocktails like the Margarita, have this sort of mythos around them. And that's one of the things, I mean, I was a lit major and I did my final like senior thesis on mythology. And I love the origin stories of cocktails, especially ones that are so shrouded in mystery.
Sure.
Because it's fun to just kind of like pick your flavor and choose which one you like. And it's okay, you can own it. Or you can explore the other ones. One of the ones that one of you, I don't know, Jeremy, if you're in the audience tonight, sent me some really interesting origin stories for the Margarita. And there was one about, I think it was Danny Herrera.
I pretty much believe them
Rancho
all.
La Gloria.
Like, who cares?
No, I mean, I'm sure they were all coming up with this amazing, delicious cocktail at the same time, right?
What do you call that? That's like mass, like, I can't remember the
There's a lot of people having the same great idea.
It's like when scientists have the same, like epiphany on the opposite sides of the earth, right? It's like we were all going to be on this earth at some point. People were going to discover that tequila, orange, and lime is an amazing combination.
Yeah, exactly. I think my favorite one, though, was a story about a bartender who was asked to make a magnolia, and he didn't really know what it was, so he kind of just was like, I'll make it something with tequila, and he brought it, and the guest was like, this is not a magnolia, and he's like, oh, I thought that you meant margarita, and he just improvised and made it up on the spot.
Sure.
And he's like, this is a margarita. It's
how many times have we had?
And she loved
sounds
it.
like the Caesar salad.
Yeah,
right?
The Caesar salad, right? Invented in Tijuana, California.
Sometimes it's a happy
Baja,
accident.
California. But I mean, Caesar salads show up on every menu in Rome. Because like tourists are like, oh, I'm in Rome, I need to have the Caesar salad. Like, well, actually, that's not an Italian invention, but if that's what you want, we'll sell it, right?
Caesar salads go really well with margaritas.
Surprisingly, right? Especially when you're down there and they get you in there stirring the pot. And
Talk about Italy. When in Rome, right?
Yeah.
Do as the Romanians do.
Do as the
Synchronicity. That's it.
Synchronicity.
Synchronicity.
John, I have read David Wondrich's. That's a great origin story as well. There's tons.
There's so many of them.
And Diana was saying, like, Sunshine in the Glass. I just, like, there's I've listened to a lot of, like, like master tequila, distillers and mezcaleros talk about, like, how agave is, like, a sunshine, spirit, because, like, it takes 8 to 13 years of just direct sunshine, like, pouring into this plant. And, like, when you distill it, you get that effect in tequila or mezcal, and I totally believe that. Like, like these agave spirits are meant to, they're celebrations, like whenever you enjoy them. And I think it's just,
I mean, the plant dies after, the plant comes to maturity and it flowers and it dies, and we harvest, all the beautiful, rich flavor that's, in the piña, in the heart of the plant, as its like death wish, right? Like it provides us with this really incredible thing called agave spirit. Whether it's tequila, I guess it's all technically mezcal.
It's all technically mezcal,
But yeah, it's one of those. It's the stage of life thing, right? There's a beautiful Blue Weber agave that was sitting out in front of my apartment for the last, it was there for the last 10 years, and it just flowered this past year. It sprouted right up, and the guys came in and they chopped it down the other day, so I got this hole where the agave used to stand. But that's life. I just wish that I would have either gotten pulque or some tequila out of it. But that's something that's very special about tequila that I feel like a lot of people who are really into like the Cabo Wabo and the Margaritaville and stuff like that, they don't really understand that tequila is actually a really unique product. It's not like a grain whiskey or a barley whiskey or something that the crop will regrow every year, right? And we think of like grapes that take like 3 to 4 to 6 years.
Talking about like real agaves at a young age, they're like 3 to 5 years old. Some of these rare agaves take like for rarer mezcals take about 30 years. So imagine like sun energy for almost a decade pouring into this agave. Like with people who know what they're doing, you get that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You get that in the glass.
I think that's why that's part of the reason why Margarita is so unique, is that it has all of that like power from the sun, and it's one of those things that will instantly transport you to a vacation, basically, right? Like I feel like when you're on vacation, it's like another margarita, like what else are you gonna order? A daiquiri? Like depending where you're from. I mean, we're here basically in Mexico, so it's a margarita for us.
Definitely.
So cool. Speaking of the margaritas, let's get the next drink going. I'm sure we've already crushed our traditional Daisy margarita. Here we're going to show you a more modern version that's also very simple. It's also just 3 elegant ingredients, fresh ingredients. And this drink's origin story is not in doubt. It was invented at Tommy's restaurant, Mexican restaurant in San Francisco, California, which is also near and dear to my heart. 1982, early 1980s. The restaurant is still there and operating and doing really well. I was just there, and I can attest that their Tommy's margaritas are still super delicious. So we're going to start the same way. We're just going to prepare this glass.
And this is a perfect cocktail. When Sean and I started making margaritas at home, we actually almost always made Tommy's margarita because we almost never had this in stock. I mean, in our early days, this is a kind of a pricey bottle,
right?
And we didn't want to skimp on like a low budget orange liqueur because I don't know, they came in plastic bottles and it's just like ooh. So we actually prefer, if we don't have a high quality orange liqueur like Cointreau or Combier, to actually make Tommy's margarita instead.
Because Tommy's margarita is really only one expensive ingredient. Everything else is super duper cheap, right? Like that way you can even splurge on a higher quality tequila because the other 2 ingredients are literally just lime juice and sugar, right? Sugar. Original Tommy's has an agave syrup to it, but if you don't have that available in your area, or if you ran out, you can easily replicate that by using I would use a rich simple syrup, 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. Because agave syrup has a viscosity and a little bit more richer.
Or even a honey syrup, like a 2-part honey to 1 part.
Yeah, honey's a great one too because it adds a little bit of the funky, earthy elements that agave nectar has. So cool. We're gonna make this drink. This has got a slightly different spec, but very similar. Here you're getting a full 2 ounces of spirit. You're getting 2 ounces of tequila. Let's go ahead and use
whatever you want, babe.
Yeah, let's do it. The 100. All right, let's use the 100 proof Fulano because why not? So I'm doing this in the reverse order that I would teach my young bartenders. But it's 2 ounces of tequila of your choosing, mezcal if you prefer, and then 1 ounce of fresh lime juice. The fresher the better. You want that beautiful acidity. This is a drink that really shows off your tequila. And we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of either an agave syrup, rich simple syrup, or a honey syrup.
Yeah, Tom, I might stay away from maple syrup for a margarita.
Yeah, maple is more of a northern, higher on the elevation, higher on the longitude spectrum.
Bourbon, rye drinks.
Yeah, totally.
Brown spirits for
brown
sure.
spirits for sure. Agave, you really want to let the freshness of the agave plant shine. So I would prefer
El Tesoro single barrel.
Oh yeah, you got it.
We've got that too.
Very well done, by the way.
Yeah, let us know what tequilas you're using
We got some more ice so you
for your margs. And this is a great time
Sorry.
to listen. Bam. A great time to listen to beautiful shaking sounds.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course.
And this is also a great time to ask your questions. If your first margarita, if there's something about it you didn't quite like,
Yeah, here we
they're
go.
here. This is when you ask.
We're here to take any and all.
Was it too
observations.
sour? Was it too sweet? Was it too boozy?
Thanks, brother.
Of course, man.
Man, Brian is just one of the most hospitable bartenders I know.
I like the nose cube too. You brought a little campfire in it.
Hey, ice is meant to keep ice cold, right?
That's true. We call that the nose cube because that's what's going to hit that cube is your nose when you drink it. The Eskimo kiss, as we call it. The old Eskimo kiss. So not a big fan of the salt rim. So what did John do instead?
Served it up.
There you go. Yeah, you can add some drops of saline solution. That way you're actually getting salt in every sip, as opposed to when you make your way around the glass and you've got no salt left, but you might still have a little margarita left. I don't know why you would. They usually go down a lot smoother than that, but if not, you're getting a little bit of salt in every sip.
Right.
And you can also decide. You can also choose to salt half your rim.
True.
Or none. You could do no salt on the rim if you want.
So the Tommy's Margarita is going to be a little more acidic. It's kind of in the West Coast style on the acid spectrum. It's definitely boozier. You get more of the tequila. So you definitely want to try to use a good one.
Yeah, so Julio Bermeo, who came up with the recipe for the original Tommy's Margarita, I think Tommy's was one of the first restaurants to really focus on agave spirits. Mm-hmm. So he really wanted the agave to sing. In the original margarita recipe, he found that he tasted too much Cointreau or orange liqueur. So he wanted something that matched the agave spirit with agave syrup. He used agave syrup instead of just spirit. So he wanted to be able to introduce a lot of people to this beautiful, spirit, tequila that wasn't originally spotlighted. So it was the birth of the Tommy's Margarita. Now it's
it's a fantastic way if you have a couple of tequilas and you want to taste the difference between them. You're entertaining with guests or just your significant other. Make 2 Tommy's Margaritas and use 2 different tequilas.
Right. And
then taste them side by side and figure out which one you like a little better.
Right. If you're not into tasting tequilas, neat by side by side.
Mm-hmm.
But
you can also shake with salt as opposed to making saline solution. If you're worried about having to do that in advance and you didn't remember, you can just literally salt bay a little into your cocktail shaker, and if you shake vigorously, you'll incorporate.
You just gotta bounce it off your elbow.
Oh yeah, just like the salt bay. Yeah. I've had good luck with about a 6-to-1 ratio water to salt, just for easy, dissolving.
John recommends 1-to-1 by weight, salt to water. So that'll be a saltier saline. You won't add as much dilution. A 6-to-1, you'll have a little bit more dilution.
I just find that the 1-to-1 doesn't really dissolve correctly. You always end up even if you're able to dissolve it right away, the crystals will start forming again. But I think that has more to do with us in the bar world trying to prep for a month worth of saline solution. It'll actually crystal over like one of those
rock candy.
Yeah, like one of those science experiments. So
or even stevia. When you try to unscrew the dropper, it's just like.
No, this thing will actually crystallize like a science experiment. It's crazy. Yeah. Just
add bar back and do that.
Yeah, right. You're like, hey, what's the saline solution?
It's
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But
We've
I've
already
always
prepped
had
it.
someone else to do it. So.
All right, you all are using Terramana.
Great.
Terramana Reposado.
Yeah, right there. The rocks tequila.
El Tesoro single barrel. We saw that. What else do we have in here? A bunch of great tequilas. More Terramana. Aja Toro Blanco. Herradura Silver.
Yeah.
And
solid Montelobos Mezcal.
And
there you
mezcal.
go. There it is.
So you can.
Tom's bringing in the mezcal.
definitely if you want something smoky, you can do what I think.
All tequila is mezcal.
Yeah,
Right.
John used a smoked sea salt, so you can add
Okay.
some smoke with your
There you go.
smoky sea salt.
Just less.
Or you
right?
could
Like,
just
I mean,
go straight to mezcal. Beautiful, smoky agave spirit.
I think smoked salt is delicious. You know, like it's just
Yeah.
you need less when it comes to that amount.
So Brian's going to go into our spirit-free cocktail,
Yes.
so that I can also have something.
It's
in
so
my
funny.
hand.
Last time I was here, we were talking about gin and tonic and NA cocktails and all that stuff. And it was just a major thread on the U.S. Bartenders Guild email.
Yeah,
like,
saw
what
that.
do you call alcohol-free cocktails? Because a lot of people are getting offended by using NA the term NA cocktails, non-alcoholics or
Gotcha.
mocktails or whatever,
Mhm.
because they feel like they're getting mocked and.
Yeah.
So
What was the best answer for that?
Well, spirit. I know at Leyenda they call it spirit free.
Spirit free.
Spirit free cocktails. I know there's a brand similar to Seed Lip, which is an NA booze company, called Spirit Free also. But I think Free Spirited was
Free
one of
spirited
them.
sounds.
I like
way
that
better,
because
yeah.
spirit-free feels like you lose a little bit of oomph. It's a little less celebratory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't got that team spirit.
Right.
I don't know. I just.
What do you call it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I know that it's an emerging category.
It is
Finally.
absolutely,
Thank goodness.
which is great.
You should be able to go out and have a good time and not have to consume alcohol.
Right, but I also just feel like as long as everyone's breaking bread together,
Yeah.
then
Who cares what it's
who
called?
cares what it's called,
Yeah.
right? it's we're celebrating, right? It's like I'm not a religious person. I'm going to preface that, and I've said that before,
Right.
But when two or
It's
more
okay
are
if you
gathered,
were.
right? Like when two or more are gathered, it's an event, right? So
I mean, this is an event right here. I mean, we're with you all. I'm with some of my favorite people here, so
right.
We're
I
having a
mean,
good time.
dude, it's awesome. So, I asked Rachel what she was in the mood for. We have some fresh blood orange. I know she's put it in the chat. We have a blood orange rooibos tea that we're going to use.
sounds good.
Yeah, it's of our fresh lime juice. And then we're going to go into our blood orange. We're going to do a full ounce of fresh squeezed blood orange. It's something that I was taught, by Christian Siglin, who is, one of the city's founding fathers of the cocktail renaissance here in San Diego, who was in turn taught by both Phil Ward and Sam Ross out of Death and Company in Mayoel and Milk and Honey and Attaboy, respectively. Whenever you use secondary citrus like pineapple juice or orange juice, you want a base of your hard citrus, which is either lime or lemon. And since we're using we're making a margarita-esque free spirited cocktail, we're using lime as our hard acid and to back up the blood orange.
And that's because things like grapefruit and orange just have a little less of that citric acid, that acidity, right?
Right.
And so there's a little less of that backbone of
Right.
You're not going to
that
get a
punchy sour.
What ends up happening is it ends up lengthening the drink and kind of diluting the drink in a way.
Right.
So without that hard citrus or acidified citrus, it's not going to balance against the sweet very well and the boozy, and it's going to end up tasting a little weak on the tongue. So that's actually best practice.
Right. If you think of your spirit as like the muscle behind your cocktail, the hard spirit, the hard acid, the hard juice is going to function as your spine. Right. It's going to hold everything up. So
Bring that one down.
yeah, in the shaker, we've got our fresh lime, we've got our blood orange. We're going to do our sweeteners. I'm going to do a 1/4 ounce of our simple syrup.
And we were talking about why we added simple and agave to this.
Well, agave for the flavor, of course, right?
Right.
Simple for the viscosity. Because what we're going to use as our spirit substitute is a tea. It's less viscous
Mm-hmm.
than our tequila or our mezcal.
Right.
So we kind of want to bring some body to this free-spirited cocktail.
There you go. And for those of you who are joining
I'm
us,
shaking my head because this is
it's all
borderline
good stuff,
brilliant.
right?
Yeah. And this is really good to know because I think even bartenders, like high functioning, like been in the bar world for a very long time, will not think in terms of viscosity and mouthfeel on their cocktails, and especially not on their free-spirited, non-alcoholic cocktails. They'll just be like, hey, you just replace the spirit with water, and you're going to get something tasty, and you're really not. So not especially if people are ordering something from you, you should try to simulate an experiential thing as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So we did half an ounce of our agave syrup, and then we're going to do 2 ounces of whichever tea you choose at home. If you're not enjoying something that has proof, Rachel chose blood orange rooibos tea, which I think is amazing. So we're going to do 2 ounces of that.
The color is really awesome.
Yeah, it's going to
Trader Joe's again, you guys.
It's going to look beautiful.
Trader Joe's has a tea select.
It's so good. Would you all consider this a light or a dark agave syrup? It
A
just
light.
says made from 100%.
If it's not like maple syrup in color, it's a light.
There you go.
Nice.
Here's the thing about about taste and like all those things that you guys were talking about. It's like it's easy to nail the flavor of something, but a lot of the times you're left asking yourself, why does this taste like thin? Why does this taste like the flavor isn't lasting? And it's that that sixth taste, the umami, right? We're talking about like there's salt, salty, bitter, sweet, all those different flavor profiles on our palate. The Japanese, as brilliant as they are, nailed this like all-encompassing,
It's like the super
umami,
flavor.
right? The super flavor, right? Like
Uh-huh.
mushrooms. It makes you salivate. It makes
Bacon.
you want that next flavor, right?
Yeah.
So like that's what viscosity does. That's what mouthfeel does. It helps with the umami. Makes you want that next sip. I'm gonna dirty it.
Oh, you're gonna dirty
Yeah,
that. Never mind.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
We talked about this.
It's all good.
All right, cheers.
So
Here we
we talked about the dirty dump earlier. I'm going to do that. I don't shake as vigorously. I kind of just get the ice cubes coated.
And is that partly because you're doing a shake and dump?
Yes. I don't want the ice to break up. It's still aerated, if you can tell. And then I'll just pour that straight into the glass.
And so you don't, by shaking just those few quick shakes, you're not breaking the ice as much. And because you're serving over the same ice that you shook with, it's like it's going to continue to chill and dilute in the glass.
Right. And
That same
there's
ice,
like,
right?
I don't, it's just something that I've been taught. It's more of a traditional thing for me. You guys, these are your cocktails at home. These are your cocktails the way you enjoy them. So we're just showing you different methods to get to the same destination. But as per my tradition, how I was taught when it comes to a margarita, not to say that classic cocktails built classically are fussy, but as Stefan said, these are meant to be crushable. So it kind of like, if you're making a bunch of these, it saves time. Beautiful. It saves time to just kind of shake them up, dump them in, and then you're ready for the next round.
These get consumed so quickly that you're probably better off not.
Now, Tom, you're
being fussy about it.
you're talking about gum arabic. If you make a traditional gum arabic, you just need less.
Yeah.
I would cut it down because the base of gum arabic is, or like a gum syrup is an extra rich. So it's 2-to-1 sugar. With the addition of gum arabic, you just need less than a regular 1-to-1 simple syrup.
That's delicious.
Yeah, so if the recipe called for a half ounce of simple syrup, you could probably get away with a quarter ounce.
Yeah,
Gum
absolutely.
syrup. But the gum syrup would also add that beautiful viscosity
Right.
that we'd be losing by replacing tea with a spirit.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gone Arabic.
Yep.
You know, if you have the 24 hours to make it, like, do it, because you do taste. You know, I'm all about tasting the care that you put into a cocktail. You know, and if that's in the cocktail, people know. You know, they might not know intellectually, but they know.
They can feel it.
Yeah.
That there was extra love and care brought into it.
It's one of those things.
Pineapple gum syrup is one of my favorite cocktail ingredients.
Yeah. $7,000, man.
It's delicious.
Like, that's one of our favorite
San Francisco.
things. You like it?
It's delicious. So we're going to do a lot more. One of the reasons we're doing a non-alcoholic cocktail or a spirit-free or a free-spirited cocktail every week is that every once in a while you might have people in your life, or you might be one of those people where you are taking a break from spirits. And it doesn't mean that you have to take a break from the richness of an experience, of a hospitality experience, of hanging out with friends. It doesn't mean you need to be relegated to, you know, just always having one of these around, sticking some bitters in there and squeezing some lime in on the fly. So thank you. This is beautiful.
Good.
Having the tea, which was a double strength brew, right? So that was, what's the spec for that?
I did 2 bags
Two
of
tea
tea
bags.
to 4 ounces of water.
And so it's a double strength. It really brings this richness to this cocktail that would be missing, like that the tequila is missing. And so they have all those rich flavors that are missing. But the rooibos and the herbal, you can do it with any tea that you're interested in. Just adds this beautiful depth of experience that is really nice for somebody who's spending 9 months not drinking alcohol.
Super important to take into consideration is to let your tea cool before putting it into your cocktail shaker. Otherwise, you're going to burn through that ice super fast and over dilute. So the first thing I noticed when I walked in today was that he was pulling the tea out of the freezer. So he was taking that extra step to make sure that Rachel was really enjoying that cocktail.
Yeah.
And I feel so loved.
Hey, as you should, right? Like, I mean, if you're making these for yourself, it's a form of self-care, right? Like, I think these things, you know, like, if you just love yourself, you know what I mean? Like, and then you can love everyone else. Like, it's pretty much, it's an amazing thing, you guys.
So,
I'm really thankful to be here, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, always.
Brian's awesome.
Also, something to know about agave syrup, right? Like, we're using this Herradura agave syrup, and if you like kind of shake it around, you can see it's pretty much coming off of the sides pretty easily. So they've cut this with water at some point. There are some agave nectar or agave syrups out on the market that are way thicker than this. Yeah. And if you have something like that, I would suggest cutting it with 1 part water to 2 to 3 parts, maybe 3 parts agave syrup. That way it's easier to get in and out of the jigger. If you're leaving a lot of that in the jigger, like residue in the jigger, then obviously it's not all making it into your cocktail. So yeah, that's something, the product that we get for all of my bars would be super thick, and we cut it with 3 parts agave nectar to 1 part water. So that's and usually hot water will do the trick real quick, and you can just let it cool.
That's a great tip. That's the same reason why if you're going to use honey as a sweetener in your cocktails, which we'll do in 2 weeks with the Gold Rush, you want to cut that with water and make a honey syrup, because can you imagine, like, I mean, anyone
we did that.
Who bakes with honey.
Early cocktail bars, we were doing that, and we were like, why are we doing
squeezing the honey into the jigger, waiting forever for most of it to drip out.
But then it'll like shock, right? And it won't even all emulsify into the drink.
Like, if anyone's like tried to add honey to an iced tea, it just sinks right to the bottom. You know?
It hardens, and it doesn't dissolve.
You just want to make a runny honey, per se, right? Like
a runny honey.
Yeah, without losing the honey flavor.
That's the first time I heard that was Karen Grill, actually. She was the first one to be like, we need to make a runny honey.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We only have 19 minutes left in this live stream.
We have one more.
Right? So drink to make.
Brian's going to share another spec with you for the margarita.
Right. I'm excited about this one because I haven't seen him make it in a while.
Oh.
It's delicious for my eyes. And I'll let him tell you about it.
So, as I was saying earlier, I was very fortunate to be of the cocktail tree of Phil Ward and Sam Ross, Myowell and Attaboy, respectively. Many regard Phil Ward as the modern day savant when it comes to agave spirits. He's the one who introduced the United States to mezcal with the Oaxacan old fashioned. So this spec for his margarita is straight from Myowell.
Which was an amazing bar.
Right. Yeah. Rest in peace. Right.
Yeah. Lower East Side.
But it leans towards the classic recipe of the margarita, which is a 3-to-1 spec, 1.5 parts tequila, 1 part orange liqueur Cointreau, half part citrus. But he boosts everything up, so you're going to get a double of tequila, 2 ounces. You're still going to get that 1 ounce of orange liqueur, but 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lime juice. So you boost up the acid, you boost up the spirit, and you don't get much of the Cointreau in the forefront, but you still get hints. So the backbone and the skeleton of the margarita is still clearly present. But you also get more value because it's more booze, right? Like, I mean, who doesn't want more booze?
So if you don't have time to make 4 sessionable margaritas,
I know.
Like, which tequila
I don't know that El Tesoro I'm going to save because that is Polite Provisions.
There's single barrel. There's only like 1.5 ounces.
That's it too. Like I brought out.
This was good.
You know what? Let's do another awesome. I was going to do. We're going to do.
You're going to do 2 ounces of anything. It should be 2 ounces of Fortaleza.
Yep.
Forty lasers, and I'm going to build this backwards like Stefan did. So we're going to start with the 2 ounces of our beautiful lowland.
and the grin,
Fortaleza.
when they say build it backwards, that's because in the bar they'll start with the least expensive ingredient first, which is something that we'd recommend if sometimes it's just in case, because if you end up pouring the wrong amount or too much, or you grab the wrong bottle of something, which sometimes happens.
If you get, you're in the middle of making something and somebody asks you a question that you have to think about, and you're like, oh shoot, what did I do? And then you can double it up. You put too much lime juice in there, and then now you wasted a bunch of tequila.
Yep.
What was the spec one more time before you shake it?
So 2 ounces of our tequila, 1 ounce of our Cointreau, and 3/4 ounce of our fresh squeezed lime juice.
Sorry, we were talking over
No, it's okay.
Presentation.
It's okay. And you're talking about like building small to big. I worked, when I was coming up at Craft and Commerce, I had someone stand over my shoulder, and whenever I made a mistake, there was a bar spoon
Yeah.
that hit my hand.
Was Seaglin doing that?
No. I'm not going to name names because I don't know. Like, I'm very appreciative. It sounds abusive, but I'm very, very appreciative because it built like amazing habits.
You gonna dirty dump?
I'm going to dirty dump this one as well. Whether it was grabbing a pint glass too close to the lip, there was a
Get your fingers off that.
Exactly. But small to big, right? Bitters. You've got and then we always built citrus to modifiers to spirit. So it's just a very, very good habit to have. Maybe a little more ice. I'll grab it.
I got you,
No,
buddy.
babe. I got you.
Okay, so they're jumping over one another to be hospitable. I love it. These guys.
We never actually got to crush a well together. We've
Really?
done a lot of events. We've done a lot of stuff together. We've never actually been in the heat of battle on a Saturday night. One of these days.
Yeah.
Not even guest chef somewhere? No?
No. We haven't. Not like not when things are like out of control.
I did an event at his old bar.
Yeah, that's right.
Where he ran the show, but with that being said, this is the modern spec. I would say the modern specifications for a margarita. Cantina Mayoel filled wort spec for the classic margarita. So cheers, guys.
Salud.
Yeah. Cheers to you.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, man.
Stefan likes that salt.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That's more our speed. A little heavier on citrus.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely get the
agave for sure.
Agave.
Like that's forefront. That's lifted by the acid, and then the Cointreau is like that tertiary flavor that kind of gives body and rounds everything out. But super crushable.
Yeah, totally. I could have 4 of those.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is I could have had 4 of the Tommies. I could have had 4 of the original spec. I could have 4 of these. I could have probably 4 NAs. Like, that's the power of the margarita.
Right.
That it's instantly crushable.
Yeah. So Todd says that if you make them by the pitcher, it still counts as making 1 drink.
You just need a boba straw.
Ha!
Any tips for scaling if somebody did want to make margaritas by the pitcher? I mean, is it just the same exact specs? What would you do with the ice? How would you obviously just stir it all together with a
Probably just stir
giant
it.
spoon?
And under dilute it a little bit because it's going to be sitting for a while.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just think when you scale up, 33% needs to be water. You know, 33% of the total makeup of your cocktail should be water for dilution. Stefan's right. You know, if you're adding ice, maybe keep that around a little bit less than that.
Yeah.
Because it will melt. It'll
keep
dilute.
diluting.
Yeah, it'll keep diluting.
But you need to think about dilution because I think a lot of people will make a big punch bowl of something and they don't think about the water that's being, infused into a single serve cocktail in the act of shaking or stirring a cocktail, which is about 33%, 30 to 35% water content. So you need to replace that with the water. Otherwise, it's going to be all booze, and your guests are going to have a great time for the first hour, and then they're going to be passed out on your couch and be like, "Wow, that was a real short party."
Yeah.
That's. And I have a story like that because when we made a picture of margaritas one time, early days, and I mixed all the ingredients together and I put them in the fridge.
Yeah.
I did see an
then
with the ice. Yeah.
And then I poured it over ice for people, but it didn't benefit from the 30% water solution.
People were faded
in the actual thing. And so if you're making a pitcher of margaritas and you're going to have ice filling up that pitcher, you're going to be a lot safer than if you make a pitcher of margarita without ice and then pour over fresh ice, unless you make sure you add your 30% like water solution.
One of these days, we're going to do that punch. This will be not one of the 52 cocktails, but we're going to have the punch episode. In that one, it's super imperative you make a lower proof punch and that you properly dilute the actual punch bowl, or you're going to have a really short party.
Especially if you're,
it's sloppy party.
Topping the punch with
champagne, which is what you have to do, right? Sasha would tell you have to do that. So
right. So, I mean, like, just think of that's what stirring and that's what shaking a cocktail does. It makes it chills the cocktail, but also adds that 33% dilution that gets it ready for your palate. Because it cuts. If you think of the cocktail, it rounds those edges.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're literally drinking just straight booze, like from the bottle. And if you're you drink that differently than you drink a cocktail, right? Like you're sipping on whiskey or something neat to enjoy the flavors, and you're drinking it slower because it's 2 straight ounces of booze at 40 to 50%, if not more. Whereas a margarita, we dirty dumped this on purpose, so you're like chomping on the ice, and it's like refreshing, and it's kind of giving you oasis from the heat of the sun and sitting out by the pool or what have you. It's a totally different drinking experience, so you definitely want to recreate that when you're batching.
Yeah.
I want to touch on 2 more things. Just that we've touched on this in previous live streams, but for anyone who's here for the first time, or if you missed, I think what did we do? The Paloma. We talked about tequilas a little bit. I noticed that all the tequilas that you brought are all Blanco tequila.
We have
one Repo. Okay.
No, this is both of these are Repo.
2, okay, all right.
But
we didn't bring any extra añejo. Why is that?
Why is that?
The only one I have is from 2009 that you can't get.
I think traditionally the margarita is made with a Blanco, but you could very easily use a Reposado or an Añejo. It's gonna
alter the taste.
It's gonna alter the taste. I think some people. I think I even remember Phil Ward saying that he prefers the Blanco because the oakiness that comes through in an aged tequila like a Reposado. He doesn't like it so much with the lime. But there are plenty of places. We were at Puerta on Tuesday, and Sean had a margarita. And I think their standard margarita, they poured with the Reposado. And they're like, we're out of the Fortaleza Rep. We only have the Blanco. And we're like, well, that's what we want anyway.
Yeah.
So, play around with your tequilas too. A more aged tequila is going to add more flavor and different kinds of flavor and be a darker one. But I think that there's still delicious ways to sample different kinds of
I
tequila.
also think it's important to touch on how agave spirits are aged in Mexico, which is totally different than the way we think of bourbon here in this country or Scotch in Scotland, right? Where they're getting barrels generally from the whiskey distilleries here in the States, generally in Kentucky and in Indiana and what have you. And they're getting, so these barrels have already seen a lot of whiskey. It's been around for a while. It's an older barrel. The temperature doesn't fluctuate as much in Mexico as it does in southern states where it gets really hot and really cold. It's generally a pretty temperate climate where agave is grown. So the agave, when it gets into a barrel, reposado means rested, so it's usually about 6 to 8 months, no more than 10 usually. Yeah. And then añejo is about 2 years. Any more than 2 years, generally they call that extra añejo, and you start hitting more in the whiskey tequila range as far as flavor. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at different tequilas. Also,
I think reposado is up to a day before 2 months.
Is the start.
Right, and then añejo is anything at 2 months to a year.
Mm-hmm. So they don't have to age for
Right,
nearly as long as
reposado doesn't mean aged; it means
just
rested, barrel
rested.
Yeah, so that's why if you see a reposado that has more color than this, they're generally adding some color in because this
either that or they're using barrels that have still a lot of char.
Sure.
So
these are pretty old.
Let's say with this Tequila Ocho, amazing tequila. They make their tequila similar to the way winemakers make wine.
Yeah, single estate.
Single estate. Every year it's a different farm. They take their agave from. So if you did vertical tastings, which means if you tasted different tequila ochos from every year, they would all taste different because they take terroir into account. They really focused on the flavor of the agave. So they wanted barrels that had very little char, almost at the end of their lives, right? There's no flavor that the barrels are going to give them, except for the rested agave flavor. So that's why it's very, very light. It almost looks like a Blanco, right?
Close.
This El Tesoro, also. Same distiller, Carlos Camarena, makes both of these. And they really want the agave to sing. They don't want the flavor of the
Jack
barrel.
Daniels.
Absolutely. Wherever they get it, they get their barrels.
And if you add one thing too, if you learn anything or take anything away about tequila today, if you came to this live stream saying, I think I know tequila, but I really don't know a whole lot. When you go shop for tequila, I haven't even had anything to drink. The one thing to look for is 100% pure agave. That's the one thing that you want to look for.
And made in Mexico.
Right. On the back of or on the front, you'll see this designation. It's an NOM, the NOM number. That's and then the number designation that tells you exactly where these agaves were farmed.
You can look them up.
Right. You can look them up on Google.
Quickly, yeah.
And that'll just make sure that you're actually buying tequila.
Right.
Like real tequila.
Yeah.
Made in Mexico.
From a farm that's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
That have farmed these agaves responsibly. Anything that doesn't have that,
or ethically sourced them.
Right.
Exactly. There's a lot of great tequila that is using agaves from different farms, different people have been.
Right.
Yeah.
I often find myself in a place where there's a specific tequila that somebody, like one of these guys, has recommended to me, and I'll go to the store and I can't find it. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, what else do I get?
Yeah.
Who am I going to call? But knowing that you're looking for 100% blue agave, and if you're looking for that NOM number, then you probably aren't going to go wrong in terms of finding a good tequila.
there's been a lot of
Margarita.
There hasn't been a whole lot of transparency baked into the tequila industry.
This is true.
It's gotten worse in the last couple of years with the way regulations have changed in Mexico. So you just have to. Yeah, unfortunately, with tequila, you have to be a little more diligent about what you're buying. Otherwise, you could be buying into stuff that's not really high grade.
Right. But with that being said, I think these last couple of years, the farmers themselves are really taking it upon themselves to make a product and to like slow down the agave farming process to make sure that they're ethically sourced, they're paying attention to the environment, to the life cycle of not only the agave but surrounding fauna and like bats, livestock,
and giving back to the communities
exactly.
and the people who make the juice.
Exactly. So I think it's getting better. I feel like agave spirits in general are going to be harder to come by just because of that.
Right.
The demand's going to go up
with the juxtaposition of the popularity of tequila, right?
But that's something that
hopefully that makes the prices go up a little bit because honestly, like it seems like highway robbery for us getting really amazing tequila at the price we do. If you look on the open market as far as rums and whiskey and gin and vodka, like tequila, we have this innate like, well, it should be half the price. That's not really fair for the communities down there. That this plant literally it dies for to go into the bottle, right?
Like it's like how much is sunshine in the glass worth you?
Exactly.
Right? Like and knowing, especially with the margarita, it's a 3-ingredient cocktail, right?
So it's really
let that tequila shine.
The agave is shining,
right?
2 quick questions. We only have 2 minutes left on the live stream.
How does it happen so fast?
I know. Carl says that agave is grown in the U.S. and agave spirits are being distilled here that are pretty good. Anything to say about U.S. grown agave? You had one outside of your apartment.
Yeah, but I didn't have the ability to turn it into.
But you know what? As champagne and bourbon, right? There's a classification.
Sure.
Tequila has to be made in Jalisco.
Yep.
Right.
So if it's called tequila, it has to come from Jalisco, Mexico.
Right. Yeah, it's like champagne. So you can't call it tequila. That doesn't mean it can't be delicious.
Right.
It just can't be called tequila.
Agave spirit.
There you go.
It's called agave spirit. Yeah.
An agave spirit.
Or it can be called technically a mezcal because every tequila is a mezcal.
Right.
It's just a very unique, specific time of mezcal because of the Blue Weber agave that's used in the process of distilling, it into a spirit. But I've absolutely had well-made agave spirits that were made here in California, but you can't call it tequila.
Yeah. Last question. If you were to add bitters to a margarita, what would you do?
Orange bitters for me.
You know what? You can never go wrong with Angostura with me. I just add like a couple.
Orange bitters,
when in doubt,
Angostura.
go out.
Yeah,
go.
I've also seen, we made spicy margaritas once, so you can do that with a jalapeno or some kind of a bitters.
Water or something like that. That's an easy way to do it without having to pick your jalapeno.
Bitterman's mole.
Yes.
Mole bitters.
Bitterman's mole.
This
or
also
the new cacao from Angostura works really well. It's like the best of both worlds.
So there's your bitters. We are at 5:30. And
woo!
If
Thanks,
you
everybody.
have been enjoying tequila cocktails, you can go to thecocktailjourney.com. Click on cocktails and you'll find this recipe and you'll find all the specs for the ones we talked about tonight. If you scroll down, you'll also find the Oaxacan Old Fashioned or a Mezcal Old Fashioned down there from, I threw that in there from the Old Fashioned. We'll feature that specifically a little bit later this year, but I saw some of you chatting about that too. Enjoy your tequila. The Paloma cocktail is another one we talked about that was a good tequila-based cocktail. And next week is the Clover Club. So join us with a new guest, Veronica, who's going to come.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
She's showing up. Good for her.
And the last thing, I just have to make sure that I let you know, to all of you who have become members of the Cocktail Journey, either back in December or up to right now, thank you. We're going to be doing this, 52 cocktails for 52 weeks. These live streams right now are totally free and open to the public, but we're going to have to probably put those behind sort of the membership platform beginning in June or July. This today, right now, if you go and become a member of the Cocktail Journey on Kickstarter at an annual or a lifetime membership, you'll get a free Napier Jigger.
Oh, there it is.
That's our early bird special. We launched our Kickstarter campaign on Tuesday. I think we're almost 30% funded.
Wow.
In less than 3 days. And
Thanks,
so we just wanted to thank you because it actually really helps if you're interested in becoming a backer to back early and then share the campaign. And so if you do back early in the first, 30 hours, we wanted to say thank you and send you one of these, and we'll send it to you free.
I use this every day of my life. It's a lifesaver, to be honest with you.
So you can go do that. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, but you can also just go to thecocktailjourney.com and hit the orange button, and it'll take you to the campaign. We're going to be here live every Thursday. Join us next week for the Clover Club. Thanks for coming, and cheers.
Cheers, y'all. Have a great week.
Cheers. Oh, the salty cheers. I love that.
Salud.
I just want to save a jigger full of each one of those tequilas.
Oh, man.
And then I can drink those in.
I love tequila weeks.
It's so fun. Bye.